I never believed in those stories you read online. You know, the ones where someone falls for their straight best friend and somehow miraculously it works out. Those felt like fantasies, like wishful thinking written by people who'd watched too many romantic movies. But then I went on a mountain trip with Jake, and everything I thought I knew about him, about us, about what was possible, it all shattered in the span of 3 days. My name is Adrian, and this is the story of how my straight best friend changed my life forever. The text came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was drowning in spreadsheets at my marketing job in Portland. My phone buzzed and Jake's name lit up the screen. "Dude, you me Mount Hood this weekend, no excuses." I stared at the message, my heart doing that annoying flutter it always did when Jake contacted me. 3 years of friendship and I still hadn't managed to train my body not to react to him. Jake Morrison was everything I tried not to want: 6'2" of effortless charm, with sandy brown hair that always looked perfectly messy, green eyes that crinkled when he smiled, and a laugh that could fill a room. He was also, as far as I knew, completely straight. We'd met at a rock climbing gym, both of us beginners fumbling our way up the same wall. He'd made a joke about us being equally terrible, and somehow that had turned into coffee, which had turned into weekly climbing sessions, which had evolved into genuine friendship. Jake knew I was gay. I told him early on, wanting to avoid any awkwardness. He just shrugged and said, "Cool, man. Now are you gonna teach me this belay technique or what?" That casual acceptance had meant everything to me. Growing up in a small conservative town in Idaho, I'd spent years hiding, pretending, performing straightness like my life depended on it. Moving to Portland at 23 had been my fresh start, my chance to finally be myself. Jake was the first straight guy who'd never made me feel like my sexuality was something to tiptoe around. But that acceptance came with a price. It meant spending time with someone I was increasingly attracted to, someone who would never see me that way. "Earth to Adrian," my coworker Melissa waved her hand in front of my face. "You okay? You've been staring at your phone for like 2 minutes." "Sorry, just a friend wants to go hiking this weekend." "And that requires this much contemplation, why?" "Because spending 48 hours alone with Jake in a remote mountain cabin sounded like exquisite torture, that's why." But I couldn't say that. "Just a lot of work to finish," I lied. I texted back, "Since when do you hike? Aren't you more of a watch sports and eat wings kind of guy?" The response came quickly: "Ouch, I contain multitudes, Chen. Besides, I need to clear my head. Steph and I broke up." My stomach dropped. Stephanie had been Jake's girlfriend for 8 months, a beautiful, confident woman who worked in finance. I'd met her a handful of times and had perfected the art of being friendly while secretly wishing I could offer Jake what she could. "Sorry man, you okay?" "Yeah, no, I don't know, that's why I need this trip, please, I already rented the cabin." And there it was, the emotional vulnerability that Jake rarely showed. He was the guy everyone leaned on, the problem solver, the one with the easy smile who made everything seem manageable. When he actually asked for support, you showed up. "Okay, send me the details." "You're the best, promise this'll be good for both of us." I looked at those words for a long time, wondering what he meant. Good for both of us. As if I needed mountain air to clear my head, as if I wasn't perfectly clear about my feelings, painfully, crystallinely clear. Friday afternoon, Jake picked me up in his beat-up Subaru Outback, the back loaded with camping gear, groceries, and what looked like enough firewood to heat a small village. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked as I tossed my backpack in the backseat. He looked good. He always looked good, in a navy flannel shirt and jeans that fit him in ways that should be illegal. His beard had grown out a bit since I'd last seen him, giving him a rugged edge that made my mouth go dry. "Born ready," I said, climbing into the passenger seat. "Though I should warn you, my idea of adventure is trying a new coffee shop." Jake laughed, that warm, genuine sound that made me feel like I was the funniest person alive. "Then this is gonna blow your mind." The drive from Portland to Mount Hood took about 2 hours, winding through increasingly dense forest as we climbed in elevation. Jake had curated a playlist, classic rock mixed with indie folk, and we fell into our usual rhythm of conversation. He told me about the breakup, how Stephanie had said he was emotionally unavailable, how she'd accused him of never fully being present in the relationship. "Maybe she was right," he said, his hands gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. "I kept feeling like something was missing, you know, like I was going through the motions." "Did you love her?" I asked, immediately regretting the question, too personal, too probing. But Jake didn't seem to mind. He was quiet for a moment, considering. I wanted to. She was amazing, smart, funny, gorgeous. On paper, she was perfect, but something just, I don't know, it didn't click the way I thought it should. I watched the trees blur past my window, trying to ignore the small, selfish part of me that was glad he was single again. Maybe you just haven't met the right person yet. Yeah, he said softly, maybe. Something in his tone made me glance over, but he was focused on the road, his expression unreadable. The cabin was smaller than I'd imagined, a cozy A-frame structure nestled in a clearing surrounded by towering pines. The air was crisp and sharp, carrying the scent of evergreen and earth. Above us, the late afternoon sky was deepening into shades of purple and gold. "Home sweet home for the weekend," Jake announced, grabbing bags from the trunk. "Fair warning, there's only one bedroom, but the couch folds out. We can flip for it." "I'll take the couch," I said quickly. The thought of sleeping in the same room as Jake, hearing him breathe in the darkness, was more intimacy than I could handle. "You sure we could share the bed, man? It's big enough." My heart hammered. "No, seriously, the couch is fine." Jake shrugged, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of disappointment. No, I was imagining things, projecting my own feelings onto innocent gestures. We spent the next hour unpacking and exploring the cabin. It was rustic but well-equipped, with a stone fireplace, a kitchen stocked with basic supplies, and wide windows that offered a stunning view of the mountain. As the sun set, Jake built a fire while I started dinner, pasta with the vegetables and sauce we'd brought. "This is exactly what I needed," Jake said, settling onto the couch with a beer as the fire crackled to life. "No phone service, no distractions, just peace." I handed him a plate and sat in the armchair across from him, trying to maintain a casual distance. "It is beautiful up here. I can see why people do this retreat thing." "I'm glad you came, Adrian. I know I kind of sprung this on you last minute." "Of course, that's what friends do." Friends, the word sat between us, solid and limiting. Jake was watching me over his beer bottle, his expression thoughtful in the firelight. "Can I ask you something?" he said finally. "Sure." "How did you know that you were gay? I mean, was it always obvious to you?" The question caught me off guard. We'd never really talked about this in depth before. "Why do you ask?" He shrugged, but there was tension in his shoulders. "Just curious. You're one of the only gay guys I'm actually close to, and I realized I don't really know your story." I took a sip of my own beer, buying time. It wasn't some big revelation, I just always knew, I guess. Even as a kid, I was drawn to boys instead of girls. But I grew up in a place where that wasn't acceptable, so I buried it. Dated girls in high school, tried to convince myself I could make it work. It wasn't until college that I finally admitted the truth to myself. That must have been hard, pretending for so long. "It was exhausting," I admitted. The worst part wasn't even hiding from others, it was lying to myself, trying to force feelings that weren't there, trying to be someone I wasn't. When I finally came out, it felt like I could breathe for the first time. Jake was quiet, staring into the fire. The orange light played across his features, highlighting the strong line of his jaw, the thoughtful furrow between his brows. "What made you ask?" I pressed gently. He shook his head. "Nothing specific, just thinking about what Steph said about me not being fully present made me wonder if I've been lying to myself about something." My pulse quickened. "Like what?" But Jake just smiled, deflecting. "Like whether I'm actually cut out for relationships, I guess. Come on, let's do something less heavy. Want to play cards?" And just like that, the moment passed. Whatever door had been cracking open, swinging shut again. We spent the rest of the evening playing poker with matchsticks for chips, trading stories and jokes, falling back into the easy camaraderie that made our friendship work. But later, lying on the pull-out couch while Jake slept in the bedroom, I couldn't stop thinking about his question. About the way he'd looked at me in the firelight, about the tension in his voice when he'd mentioned lying to himself. I told myself I was reading too much into it, seeing what I wanted to see. Jake was straight. He'd never given me any real reason to think otherwise. This weekend was about friendship and healing, nothing more. But as I drifted off to sleep to the sound of wind in the pines and the distant call of an owl, a small, dangerous part of me wondered, what if? When I woke Saturday morning, sunlight was streaming through the cabin windows, painting everything in shades of honey and gold. The smell of coffee drifted from the kitchen, and I could hear Jake humming off-key to himself. I stretched on the couch, my body stiff from the unfamiliar mattress, and tried to shake off the remnants of dreams I didn't want to examine too closely. Dreams of firelight and green eyes and a hand reaching for mine. "Morning, sleeping beauty," Jake called when he heard me stirring. "Coffee's ready and I made eggs," well, attempted to make eggs. I padded into the kitchen to find him standing at the stove, his hair adorably mussed, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt that had seen better days. The eggs were indeed an attempt, scrambled to within an inch of their lives, slightly brown at the edges. "Gordon Ramsay is trembling," I teased. "Hey, I'm trying here, not all of us are domestic gods." He handed me a plate with a grin that made my stomach flip. "Eat up, I want to hit the trail early." "Trail, since when are we hiking?" "Since we're on a mountain, Adrian, that's kind of the point." I'd packed hiking boots on a whim, never really believing we'd use them. But 30 minutes later, we were heading up a trail that wound through dense forest, the morning air cool and crisp, our breath misting in small clouds. Jake set a steady pace, moving with an easy confidence that suggested he'd done this more than I'd realized. I followed behind, trying not to stare at the way his shoulders moved under his jacket, the way his body navigated the terrain with casual grace. "You're quiet this morning," he observed, glancing back at me. "Just waking up, not all of us are morning people." "Fair enough, how'd you sleep?" "Good," I lied. In truth, I'd tossed and turned for hours, hyper-aware of Jake sleeping just one room away, my mind replaying our fireside conversation on an endless loop. The trail opened up into a clearing, offering a breathtaking view of the mountain's snow-capped peak rising against an impossibly blue sky. Jake stopped, hands on his hips, and let out a long breath. "This," he said, "is what I'm talking about. Makes everything else seem small, doesn't it?" I stood beside him, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. "Yeah, it's beautiful." But I wasn't looking at the mountain. I was looking at him, at the way the wind ruffled his hair, at the expression of pure contentment on his face, at the way the morning light caught in his eyes. He turned and caught me staring, and for a moment something passed between us. Recognition, maybe, or question. Then he smiled, breaking the spell. "Come on, there's a lake about a mile up I want to show you." Rising tension. The lake was worth the hike, a perfect mirror of water reflecting the sky and surrounding trees, so still it looked like glass. We sat on a fallen log at the water's edge, sharing a trail mix and passing a water bottle back and forth. "Can I ask you something?" Jake said after a long silence. "You've been asking me a lot of some things this trip." He laughed, but it sounded nervous. "I know, sorry, I've just been thinking a lot lately, about life, about choices, about—" He trailed off, picking at the bark on the log. About being honest, really honest, not just surface-level honest." He turned to look at me, and there was something vulnerable in his expression that made my chest tighten. "When you came out, how did people react?" "Some good, some bad. My parents, they struggled. Still do, honestly. We talk, but there's this distance now, this thing between us that wasn't there before. Some friends from home stopped talking to me entirely, but others surprised me. People I thought would reject me turned out to be the most supportive." "Do you ever regret it, coming out, I mean?" "Never," I said firmly. "Even with the hard parts, even with what I lost, I'd never go back to hiding, living authentically, being able to be myself without apology. That's worth everything." Jake nodded slowly, his gaze distant. "What if—" He stopped, shook his head. "Never mind." "What if what?" "What if you thought you knew who you were, and then something made you question everything?" My heart was pounding now, so loud I was sure he could hear it. "Then I'd say that's called growth. People evolve. We learn new things about ourselves all the time. Even big things, even things that change everything. Especially those things." He was quiet for so long I thought he'd retreated back into himself. But then he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I think I might be attracted to guys." The words hung in the air between us, fragile and enormous. Time seemed to slow, the world narrowing to just the two of us on this log by this lake, the water lapping gently at the shore. "Okay," I managed, trying to keep my voice steady, neutral, supportive. Inside, my mind was racing. Thank you for telling me. I've been thinking about it for months, maybe longer, maybe always, and I just didn't let myself see it." He was talking faster now, words tumbling out like he'd been holding them back for too long. Stephanie wasn't wrong when she said I was emotionally unavailable. I couldn't fully be with her because part of me was always somewhere else, someone else. My breath caught someone. He turned to look at me, and the intensity in his eyes made my skin feel electric. Adrian, I. But before he could finish, his phone buzzed. Both of us jumped, the moment shattering like the glass-still surface of the lake in a sudden wind. I thought there was no service up here, I said, trying to regain my composure. Jake pulled out his phone, frowning. There isn't usually, must be a weird pocket of reception. He glanced at the screen and something shifted in his expression. It's my mom, I should. She only calls if it's important. Of course, take it. He walked a few paces away, phone pressed to his ear, leaving me sitting on the log with my thoughts spinning wildly. Had he been about to say what I thought he was about to say? Or was I projecting, reading into every word what I desperately wanted to hear? Jake's conversation was brief, and when he returned, he looked troubled. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, just family stuff. My dad's in the hospital, nothing serious, a minor heart scare, but mom's freaked out and… He ran a hand through his hair. I should probably head back tomorrow morning instead of Sunday. Disappointment washed through me, sharp and unexpected. Of course, family comes first. But we still have today and tonight. He reached out and squeezed my shoulder, the touch sending sparks through my body, and we need to finish that conversation. Evening deepening connection. We hiked back to the cabin in a silence that felt charged, heavy with unspoken things. Jake made sandwiches for lunch, moving around the small kitchen with restless energy. I could feel him working up to something, gathering courage. That afternoon, we tried to distract ourselves with normal activities, reading on the porch, playing more cards, taking turns on a hike to a nearby waterfall. But the tension was always there, humming beneath the surface like an electrical current. As evening approached, Jake suggested we drive to a spot he'd read about, a viewpoint where you could watch the sunset over the valley. We made the 10-minute drive in near silence, the air between us thick with anticipation. The viewpoint was deserted, a small clearing with a weathered picnic table and an unobstructed view of the horizon. We sat on the table's top, feet on the bench, and watched as the sky began its nightly transformation, gold bleeding into pink, pink deepening to orange and purple. This morning, Jake began, his voice quiet, I told you I might be attracted to guys. That wasn't the whole truth. I didn't dare breathe, didn't dare move. I'm not attracted to guys plural, I'm attracted to a guy, singular, specific. He turned to look at me and the vulnerability in his eyes was devastating. I'm attracted to you, Adrian, I have been for a long time, I think. I just didn't let myself see it, didn't let myself feel it. I told myself our friendship was enough, that what I felt was just really strong platonic love. But it's not, it's never been just that. The world tilted, everything I'd convinced myself was impossible was suddenly, terrifyingly, wonderfully real. Jake, I whispered, his name a prayer and a question. I know this is probably a lot, and I know I'm your straight friend, or I was, or I thought I was, and this changes everything between us. But I couldn't keep pretending. Not after Stephanie, not after realizing that the reason I couldn't fully love her was because my heart was already somewhere else, with someone else, with you. How long, I asked, my voice shaking, how long have you known? Consciously, a few months. When Stephanie and I started having problems, I kept thinking about what I actually wanted in a partner and every quality I listed. It was you, your laugh, your kindness, the way you listen like every word matters, the way you make me feel seen in a way no one else ever has, and then I'd catch myself thinking about, he swallowed hard, about touching you, kissing you, waking up next to you. My hands were trembling. Jake, I've been in love with you for 2 years. His eyes widened. 2 years. Maybe longer. I tried so hard not to be. I told myself I had to protect our friendship, that it was better to have you as a friend than risk losing you entirely. Every time you dated someone, I had to smile and be supportive while my heart was breaking. This whole weekend, I've been trying not to read into every look, every word, convincing myself I was imagining things. You weren't imagining anything. He shifted closer, his knee pressing against mine, and the contact sent electricity through my entire body. I'm terrified, Adrian. I've never done this before, never been with a guy, never even let myself think about it seriously. I don't know what I'm doing. Neither did I once, I said softly. It's okay to be scared. What if I mess this up? What if I'm not good at it, or I realize I was wrong, or… I reached out and took his hand, lacing our fingers together. His hand was warm and calloused from climbing, and the simple touch felt monumental. Then we figure it out together, no pressure, no expectations, we just see where this goes. He looked down at our joined hands, then back up at me, and the expression on his face was pure wonder. Can I? He leaned closer, his free hand coming up to cup my jaw, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. Can I kiss you? Please, I breathed. The first touch of his lips against mine was tentative, questioning. But then something shifted, and he was kissing me with a hunger that suggested he'd been starving for this, for me, for longer than he'd admitted. His hand slid into my hair and I gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, pouring 2 years of longing into the kiss. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jake rested his forehead against mine. Wow, he whispered. Yeah, wow. That was, he laughed, the sound giddy and disbelieving. That was nothing like kissing girls, that was, God, Adrian. Good different. The best different, he kissed me again, softer this time, sweeter. I can't believe I waited this long to figure this out. We stayed at the viewpoint until the stars began to appear, kissing and talking and marveling at how everything had shifted. Jake kept touching me, my face, my hands, my hair, like he was confirming I was real, that this was actually happening. On the drive back to the cabin, he held my hand over the center console, his thumb drawing circles on my palm. The gesture was so simple, so domestic, and it filled me with a joy so intense it was almost painful. Night vulnerability and intimacy. Back at the cabin, Jake built another fire while I opened a bottle of wine we'd brought. We settled on the couch together this time, no careful distance between us, my legs tucked under me and his arm around my shoulders. Tell me what you're thinking, I said softly. I'm thinking that I feel more like myself right now than I have in years, maybe ever. He pressed a kiss to my temple. I'm thinking that I was an idiot for not seeing this sooner. I'm thinking that I'm falling for you so fast it's terrifying and I don't want to scare you off. You won't, I'm already all in, Jake. I have been for a long time. Even though I'm figuring this out as I go. Especially because of that, you're trusting me with something huge, something vulnerable. That means everything to me. We talked late into the night, the fire burning low as we shared stories we'd never told each other. Jake told me about the first time he'd questioned his sexuality, a moment in high school with his best friend that he'd immediately buried. About the way he'd sometimes found himself more interested in male actors and athletes than he thought was normal but dismissed it. About the relief he'd felt when I'd come out to him, like someone had opened a door he didn't know he'd been looking for. I told him about my first crush, my first heartbreak, the fear and exhilaration of being openly gay. About the times I'd watched him across a room and had to remind myself that wanting him was pointless. About the night I'd almost confessed everything and had chickened out at the last second. I wish you had, he said. I might have figured things out sooner. Or it might have ruined everything. Timing matters. Yeah, maybe we needed to get here on our own time, he yawned, his eyes heavy. I should let you sleep, it's late. Stay, I said impulsively. On the couch, I mean with me if you want. His smile was slow and warm. I want. We arranged ourselves on the pull-out bed, facing each other in the dim glow of the dying fire. Jake reached out and traced my face with his fingertips, learning the landscape of me. You're so beautiful, he murmured. I don't think I've ever let myself really look at you before, not like this. Jake. I mean it, you're gorgeous, Adrian, inside and out. He kissed me again, and this time there was a promise in it, a commitment to whatever came next. When we finally settled into sleep, his arms around me and my head on his chest, I felt something I'd never quite experienced before, complete contentment, like every piece of my life had finally clicked into place. As I drifted off, listening to the steady beat of his heart, I sent a silent thank you to whatever force had brought us to this mountain, to this moment, to each other. I woke to the sensation of fingers running gently through my hair and the steady rise and fall of Jake's chest beneath my cheek. For a moment, still caught between sleep and consciousness, I thought I was dreaming. But then reality settled over me like a warm blanket. This was real. Jake was real. Everything that had happened last night was beautifully, impossibly real. Morning, Jake murmured, his voice rough with sleep. Been watching you sleep for like 10 minutes. Is that creepy? That's probably creepy. I lifted my head to look at him, finding his green eyes already on me, warm and soft in the early morning light. It's only creepy if you make it creepy. He laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest. How do you feel? Like I'm afraid to move in case this all disappears. I know exactly what you mean. He cupped my face, his thumb brushing my lower lip. But I'm not going anywhere. Well, actually, I am. We need to head back soon because of my dad, but metaphorically, emotionally, I'm not going anywhere. How are you so well adjusted about this? 12 hours ago, you were just realizing you're attracted to men. Jake was quiet for a moment, considering. I think part of me has always known on some level. I just finally gave myself permission to acknowledge it, and maybe it helps that this isn't about men in general, it's about you, specifically, wonderfully you. The way he looked at me made my heart stutter. We should probably talk about what happens when we get back to Portland. The real world is going to be different than this mountain bubble. I know. He sat up, pulling me with him, keeping me close. And I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers. This is new territory for me, but I want to try, Adrian. I want to figure this out with you. What about your family, your friends? This is going to be a big deal for them. My friends are good people. If they have a problem with me being with a guy, then they're not the friends I thought they were. He paused, his confidence wavering slightly. My family might be harder. My dad is pretty traditional, but that's my problem to handle, not yours. I'm not going to hide you or hide us. The conviction in his voice made me want to kiss him, so I did. It was becoming dangerously addictive, this kissing him, feeling him respond with equal enthusiasm. We should probably get moving, Jake said reluctantly when we broke apart. Pack up, head back, but first breakfast, and this time I promise not to murder the eggs. The drive home facing reality. The drive back to Portland felt different than the drive up. Jake kept his hand on my thigh when he wasn't shifting gears, a constant connection between us. We listened to music and talked about everything and nothing, plans for the week, a movie we wanted to see, the climbing competition coming up next month. But underneath the casual conversation, I could feel both of us thinking about what came next, the uncertainty of it, the potential complications. What are you afraid of? Jake asked suddenly, as if reading my mind. Lots of things, I admitted. That you'll have regrets, that the reality of being with a guy won't match whatever you've been imagining, that you'll miss being with women, that I'll want more than you're ready to give. Those are valid fears, he squeezed my leg gently. Want to know what I'm afraid of? Tell me. I'm afraid of hurting you, of not being good enough at this, at being in a relationship with a man. I'm afraid that everyone will have opinions about us and that the pressure will be too much. I'm afraid of disappointing my family. He took a breath. But you know what scares me more than all of that? What? The thought of going back to pretending, of not having this, not having you, that scares me more than anything else. I blinked back, sudden tears. Jake Morrison, when did you become so emotionally articulate? He grinned. Must be your influence, you're making me soft. You say that like it's a bad thing. It's not, it's actually really good. We stopped for lunch at a diner in Sandy, a small mountain town about halfway home. Sitting across from each other in a vinyl booth, sharing fries and trading bites of our sandwiches, we could have been any couple on a weekend trip. Except we weren't any couple, we were two people navigating brand new territory, trying to figure out how to be together in a world that hadn't known we were together yesterday. Can I ask you something? Jake said, dragging a fry through ketchup. About being out, about being gay in public, what's that like? Depends on where you are and who you're with. Most of the time in Portland, it's fine, great, even, but there are still moments where you're aware that not everyone is comfortable with it. You learn to read spaces to gauge whether it's safe to hold hands or if you should keep some distance. His expression darkened. That's not fair that you have to think about that. It's reality, and honestly, it's gotten so much better than it used to be. My generation has it easier than the ones before us, but there's still work to do. If we're together, really together, will you tell me when something makes you uncomfortable, when you don't feel safe? The fact that he was thinking about this, about my safety and comfort, made me fall for him even harder. Yes, but Jake, I also need you to know I've been navigating this world for years. I'm not fragile. I don't need you to protect me from every difficult moment. I know you don't need it, I want to anyway. Jake dropped me off at my apartment building in the late afternoon. We sat in his parked car for a long moment, neither of us quite ready to say goodbye. So Jake said finally, "What now?" Now you go check on your dad, make sure he's okay, and we text, talk, figure out our next steps. I want to see you tomorrow. Is that too soon? Am I being clingy? I laughed. You can be as clingy as you want. Tomorrow sounds perfect. He leaned across the console and kissed me, soft and lingering. Thank you, he whispered against my lips. For what? For being patient with me, for taking a chance on me even when you thought I was straight, for being you. Jake, you don't have to thank me for any of that. I want to this weekend. You changed my life, Adrian. We changed each other's lives. One more kiss and then I forced myself to get out of the car before I could climb back in and refuse to leave. I watched him drive away, my heart full and my mind racing with everything that had happened. My roommate Marcus was home when I walked in, sprawled on our couch with his laptop. How was the mountain trip with your straight friend? He asked without looking up. I dropped my bag and sat down next to him. About that. He finally looked at me, taking in whatever expression was on my face. Oh my God, what happened? He's not actually straight. Marcus sat up so fast his laptop nearly slid to the floor. What? And he kissed me a lot, and we talked about trying to be together like for real. Shut up, Adrian Chen, do not mess with me right now. I'm not messing with you, it happened, it's happening. He has feelings for me, Marcus, real feelings. My roommate let out a whoop of joy and pulled me into a hug. I knew it, I told you there was something there, you were all no, Marcus, he's straight, and I was like, that man looks at you like you hung the moon and, wait, are you okay? This is good, right? It's terrifying and wonderful, and I have no idea what I'm doing. None of us do, babe, that's the fun part. He pulled back, studying my face. But seriously, how do you feel? Happy, scared, like I'm standing on the edge of something huge and I don't know if I should jump or step back. Jump, Marcus said firmly. Always jump, especially when it's Jake. That man is crazy about you. Jake's perspective, the family visit. While I was debriefing with Marcus, Jake was at the hospital with his family. He'd texted me an update. His dad was fine, just stress-related chest pains, nothing serious. But sitting in that hospital room, surrounded by his parents and younger sister, Jake felt the weight of everything he hadn't told them yet. He texted me later that night. That was harder than I expected. Kept wanting to tell them about you and chickening out. Is it weird that I want everyone to know? Me, not weird, sweet. But Jake, you should tell them when you're ready, not because you feel like you have to. Jake, I want to be ready now. I don't want to hide us. Me, then don't, but give yourself grace too. You just figured this out. No one's expecting you to have everything processed immediately. Jake, you're really wise, you know that. Me, I've had more practice at this than you have, that's all. Jake, can I see you tomorrow? I know I asked earlier, but I'm asking again, I miss you. My heart squeezed. Yes, come over around 7, I'll make dinner. Jake, perfect, Adrian. Me, yeah. Jake, I can't stop thinking about you. I stared at that message for a long time, a smile spreading across my face. The next evening, moving forward. Jake showed up at 7 on the dot, holding a bottle of wine and looking nervous. I'd spent an embarrassing amount of time cleaning the apartment and trying to make myself look casually attractive, as if I hadn't tried at all. Hey, he said when I opened the door. Hey yourself. We stood there for a moment, suddenly awkward, the reality of being in the real world together settling over us. Then Jake stepped inside, closed the door, backed me against it, and kissed me like he'd been thinking about nothing else all day. Sorry, he murmured when he finally pulled back. I've been wanting to do that for the last 24 hours. Don't apologize for kissing me, ever. Dinner was pasta primavera, simple but good, and we ate at my small kitchen table while catching up on our days. Jake told me more about his dad's health scare, about the relief his family had felt when the doctor confirmed it wasn't serious. I almost told them, he admitted, twirling pasta on his fork. About us. My sister was talking about her boyfriend and I just wanted to say I have someone too, someone amazing, but the words got stuck. That's okay, there's no rush. But I want to, not because I'm ashamed or anything, I'm not, I've never had to come out before, I don't know how to do it. There's no one right way. For some people it's a big sit-down conversation, for others it's casual, just mentioning it in passing. You get to decide what feels right for you. Jake reached across the table and took my hand. Will you be there when I tell them? I know that's asking a lot, but of course I'll be there, whatever you need. After dinner, we moved to the couch. Jake pulled me against him, his arm around my shoulders, my head on his chest. We put on a movie neither of us really watched, too focused on each other, on this new intimacy we were learning to navigate. Can I ask you something? Jake said during a quiet moment. Always. What do you need from me, in this relationship? I mean, what makes you feel loved and secure? The question caught me off guard. No one's ever asked me that before. Well, I'm asking, I want to do this right, Adrian, I want to be good for you. I thought about it, really thought about it. I need honesty, even when it's hard, even when you're figuring things out. I need communication, don't let things build up, talk to me. And I need you to be yourself, to not try to be some perfect version of what you think a boyfriend should be, just be Jake, that's who I fell in love with. I can do that, he pressed a kiss to the top of my head, what else? Patience, this is new for both of us, not the being gay part for me but the being together part. We're going to mess up sometimes, we just have to be patient with each other. And affection, what about that? I tilted my head up to look at him, what about it? I like touching you, holding you, is that okay, is it too much? Jake, I have spent 2 years dreaming about you touching me, it will never be too much. He grinned, that slow, devastating smile that made my stomach flip. Good, because I'm having a hard time keeping my hands to myself. Then don't. The kiss that followed was deeper, more intense, and when Jake shifted to pull me into his lap, I went willingly, straddling his thighs and threading my fingers into his hair. His hands slid under my shirt, warm against my skin, and I gasped against his mouth. Is this okay? He murmured, his lips moving to my neck. Tell me if I should slow down. Don't you dare slow down. We made out like teenagers, all desperate kisses and wandering hands, learning the geography of each other's bodies. When things threatened to escalate beyond what either of us was ready for, Jake pulled back, breathing hard. We should stop, he said, though his hands were still on my waist, holding me close. Not because I don't want to keep going, trust me, I really want to keep going, but because I want to do this right, take our time. Look at you being all responsible and mature. I'm trying, it's very difficult when you're sitting in my lap looking like that. I climbed off him reluctantly, both of us flushed and disheveled. For what it's worth, I appreciate the restraint. There will be time for everything else, I want to savor this, savor us. He pulled me back against his side. Is that weird? Am I overthinking? It's not weird, it's sweet, and Jake, there's no instruction manual for this, we're making it up as we go and that's okay. Jake invited me to Sunday dinner with his family. His parents lived in Beaverton, a suburb just outside Portland, in a nice ranch house with a well-maintained lawn and a garden his mother was proud of. I was nervous, more nervous than I'd been about anything in years. This wasn't just meeting the family of someone I was dating. This was going to be the moment Jake told his parents he was bisexual, that he was with a man, that everything they thought they knew about their son had shifted. You look like you're going to throw up, Jake observed as we sat in his car outside his parents' house. I might, is that bad? Hey, he took my hand, lacing our fingers together. They're going to love you, and even if they struggle with the rest of it, that's not about you, that's about them adjusting to new information. We'll handle it together, okay? Okay. And Adrian, thank you for being here, for doing this with me. His mother answered the door, a petite woman with Jake's eyes and a warm smile. You must be Adrian, Jake talks about you all the time, come in, come in. The house smelled like roasting chicken and herbs. Jake's father was in the living room, looking healthy and relaxed post-health scare, and his younger sister Emma bounded in from the kitchen, excited to meet the famous Adrian she'd heard so much about. Dinner was surprisingly easy. Jake's family was welcoming and funny, trading stories and teasing each other with obvious affection. I found myself relaxing, laughing at Emma's story about her college roommate debating politics politely with Jake's father. But I could feel Jake's tension, could see him working up to something. After dessert, he cleared his throat. I have something I want to tell you all, he began, and the room went quiet. His mother set down her coffee cup. What is it, honey? Jake reached under the table and found my hand, squeezing once. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about myself, about what I want, about who I am, and I realized that I'm bisexual. The silence that followed felt enormous. Emma's eyes went wide, but she was smiling. His mother looked shocked but not necessarily upset. His father's expression was harder to read. And Jake continued, his voice steady despite the hand trembling slightly in mine. I'm in a relationship with Adrian. Oh, his mother said softly, oh, sweetheart. I know this is probably surprising. It was surprising to me too at first, but it's also the most right thing I've ever felt. And Adrian he's everything. I wanted you all to know because he's important to me and you're important to me, and I want the people I love to know each other. Another beat of silence, and then Emma jumped up and came around the table, pulling Jake into a hug. I'm so happy for you, she said fiercely. Both of you and Adrian, welcome to the family officially. Jake's mother stood next, her eyes wet with tears. I love you, she said, hugging her son tightly. Thank you for trusting us with this. She turned to me, opening her arms. And you, Adrian, thank you for making my son happy. I can see it in his eyes. All eyes turned to Jake's father, who had been silent throughout. He stood slowly, and my heart hammered with anxiety. But then he crossed to Jake and pulled him into a brief, firm embrace. You're my son, he said gruffly. That doesn't change, ever, and if this is who you are, then this is who you are. He held out a hand to me. Adrian, was it? Nice to meet you properly. I shook his hand, overwhelmed with relief. Thank you, sir. Call me Robert, he clapped Jake on the shoulder. Now who wants more pie? Just like that, the tension broke. The rest of the evening was filled with questions, gentle, curious questions about how we'd met, how long we'd been together, what our plans were. Jake's family wrapped us in acceptance, and watching Jake's shoulders relax, seeing the joy on his face, made my heart feel too big for my chest. Later, driving home, Jake pulled over at a scenic overlook and turned to me with shining eyes. We did it, he said, his voice thick with emotion. They know, they accept us, Adrian, they love you. Your family is wonderful. I was so scared, and it was so much easier than I thought it would be. Not everyone gets that lucky, I reminded him gently. I'm so glad your family was supportive, but remember that lots of people have much harder coming out experiences. I know, and I don't take it for granted. He cupped my face in his hands. I don't take any of this for granted. You, us, this chance we're taking, I want you to know that. I do know, I see it every time you look at me. He kissed me there in his parked car overlooking the city lights of Portland, and I felt the last pieces of my anxiety crumble away. This was real. This was happening. Against all odds, my straight best friend had turned out to be not so straight after all, and we were building something beautiful together. 3 months passed in a blur of happiness and discovery. Jake and I fell into a rhythm, learning how to be together, learning how to navigate the world as a couple. There were challenges, moments when Jake's inexperience with dating men showed, times when my own insecurities bubbled up, the occasional awkward encounter with someone who didn't understand or approve. But there was so much more joy than difficulty. Lazy Sunday mornings tangled in sheets trading coffee-flavored kisses, rock-climbing dates where we spotted each other and celebrated every small victory, dinner parties with friends who embraced us as a couple, quiet evenings reading on the couch, my feet in his lap, his hand absently stroking my ankle. Jake came out to his wider circle of friends, and while not everyone was supportive, the people who mattered rallied around him. He started researching LGBTQ plus history and culture, wanting to understand the community he was now part of. He joined a support group for people coming out later in life, finding solidarity with others navigating similar journeys. I watched him bloom into himself, becoming more confident, more comfortable in his own skin. And in return, he showed me what it felt like to be chosen, to be loved completely and openly without reservation or shame. On a Friday evening in spring, Jake took me back to the mountain. Same cabin, same trails, same breathtaking views. We hiked to the lake where he'd first started to tell me how he felt. And we sat on that fallen log, the water mirror still before us. I've been thinking about that day, Jake said, staring out at the water. About how terrified I was to tell you, about how sure I was that everything was about to change. Everything did change. Yeah, but in the best way possible. He turned to look at me, and the love in his eyes was so clear it took my breath away. I used to think I knew what love was supposed to feel like, but I didn't, not really, not until you.
Jake,
I'm not done, he smiled, reaching into his pocket. For one wild moment, I thought he was pulling out a ring, but it was a compass, an old brass compass with an engraved message on the back. You always lead me home, I read aloud, my voice catching. You do, you have since the day I met you, I just didn't realize it yet. Wherever you are, that's where I want to be, that's home. I launched myself at him, kissing him hard, tasting salt on his lips from his tears or mine, I couldn't tell. I love you, I whispered against his mouth. I love you so much. I love you too, thank you for waiting for me to catch up. Worth every second. We stayed until sunset, watching the sky paint itself in brilliant colors, holding each other close. The mountain had brought us together, had given Jake the space to finally see what was right in front of him, had given me something I'd stopped believing in, a love story with a happy ending. As we hiked back to the cabin hand in hand, I thought about the scared 23-year-old I'd been when I'd moved to Portland, the one who'd been so sure love like this wasn't in the cards for him. I wished I could tell that younger version of myself to hold on, to be patient, that everything he was hoping for was coming. Sometimes the love you're looking for is hiding in plain sight, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself. Sometimes your straight best friend turns out to be the love of your life, and sometimes all it takes is a mountain trip to change everything. Jake squeezed my hand and I squeezed back, both of us smiling at the path ahead, ready for whatever came next.
together.